Hi there, everyone, and welcome to the From Desk to Dynasty podcast. As always, I'm your host, Owen. I'm here with a very exciting guest today, David. He's going to share us, all of his insights and experiences and a lot of really interesting stuff. So, without further ado, David, I'll pass it across to yourself for a quick introduction.
Sure. So my name is David Cassese. I currently am a vice president with Veteran Sourcing Group, which is a contingent staffing and recruiting organization. We serve customers on a national basis. I've been in the industry since 1991, a long time. I've seen a lot of different things within the staffing industry.
I'm sure, no, a true veteran of the game, and yeah, definitely be interesting to touch upon a little bit later down the line. Some of those changes and differences that you've seen over your time in the industry. I guess just to kick us off, David, could you maybe share a little bit about your journey into, recruitment or staffing, and what it was that really drew you to this industry?
Sure, that's easy. My when I graduated college in '91, my father was the CEO of a large IT national staffing company that had been around for 20 years, and in '91 there wasn't. I don't know if it was really technically if it was a recession or not, but um, the economy, the U.S. economy, wasn't great at the time, and so I entered into the staffing business really, through my father and my two brothers. My two older brothers at the time were both working for my father's staffing company. So that's really my intro. It wasn't, I got introduced, and I think that's the way the staffing industry is even today. It doesn't seem like people come out of college saying, "Oh, I want to be a recruiter. I want to get in the staffing industry." Um, it always seems to me when I speak to other people in our industry that either a family member or a friend or somebody really introduced them into the staffing industry somehow. So that's my experience.
100%. I think it's such a common theme that I see being in these conversations. No one, for some reason, no one grows up wanting to be a recruiter. It's always a case of they do something, they don't like it, someone introduces them through their network, whatever, and they land in the role. Cool. But so, just given that, in that case, was it for you? It was like, I'm always going to, learn from my father, enter into this business, or did you do a bit of looking around, or was it just a case of this is it?
Uh, Yeah, I didn't come out of college, just saying, yes, I'm going to go work for my father. I mean, it was always in the back of my mind, I guess. I thought I wanted to be a college professor. I thought I was going to go down that road coming out of college. But again, it was tough. It was tough finding jobs in '91 coming out of when I graduated for a lot of my friends and everything. So I joined my father's company, and there was some comfortability there because throughout college on breaks and um, in the summer I did work at his company. I was at the time, I don't know if they still use the term a gopher, but basically I would file, I would, make photocopies, I would get people coffee, I'd run and get donuts for meetings or something like that. So I did know the folks that at least worked in the New Jersey office where I ended up working. So it was kind of nice, you know, work with people that you kind of already knew, um, and um, and I've stayed in the industry ever since.
For sure. I think that that's the case with most. They land in it and then they love it and they don't seem to leave it. So
Yeah, or they don't love it and they leave.
straight away.
Recruiting is one of those industries. I don't know. There's a certain mindset I think in the recruiting business, and especially in our space where it's most of what we do is contingent recruiting, right? Staffing contractors, as opposed to the permanent placement business. It's a little bit different in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, could you potentially touch upon some of those differences? Is there a reason that you don't go for any retained and it's all contingent?
But not in particular. I mean, we do most of our customers, are large Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies that have a lot of contingent spend, and and we get on the vendors lists and become preferred suppliers or preferred vendors. And sometimes within those programs, we do get perm placement. Perm placement positions, but for the most part, I'd say 90 something percent of our business is in the contingent space. Um, and so that's just that's where that's what we service anyway.
Awesome. I think that's recruitment down to the bare bones, isn't it? It's like we've got a job at hand. Let's do it and let's do it.
Faster,
Yeah.
it's faster paced, right? So you're within the perm placement staffing business. It tends to take a little bit longer, to from identifying a candidate to placing that candidate. Whereas in the contingent space, everything happens, quickly. Right, one interview, maybe two interviews, and somebody gets an offer, and people start relatively quickly. So, I mean, when I first started, somebody could interview today, and they could start tomorrow. That's how quickly it used to be, anyway. Now there's a lot of different compliance procedures and background checks and different things that you have to go through. So it takes a little bit longer, but overall, in terms of the perm placement staffing, it is relatively a lot quicker.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it can also be nice to get that quick feedback loop as well. Like you
It
find out.
is, yeah, it is. The more time, the more things drag out, deals end up falling through. It seems so. You want to get an interview, you want to get an offer, and you want to get that person started as soon as possible.
For sure, for sure. Time kills deals. That's one of them. But yeah, in the early days, what were the biggest challenges that you sort of come across? Whether that was, starting out as a recruiter or moving up into more leadership roles, was there anything that sticks out like this was a super hard to
Yeah,
get
I
that?
think I think scaling your business in this industry is one of the biggest challenges. I think in the early days and even now, just increasing your headcount, month after month is generally the biggest challenge because in the contracting space, contracts end. So you may have a good month where you make a lot of placements, and then the next month, a lot of people might come out, due to natural contracts ending, or somebody leaves, resigns a position and and they take a job with somebody with another organization, or if things aren't going well and the customer releases your contractors. So really, keeping really just trying to increase your head count month over month more than folks are coming out. I think that's one of the biggest challenges in the staffing business, and growing your business, if that's what you want to do. Some customer or some staffing organizations, they don't mind being a small niche player, a mom and pop shop, but other, most organizations, most business owners, I think, they want to grow, and so that's always the challenge, in my opinion, is scaling and growing your business.
I couldn't agree more. I think a big thing is, scaling and growing. It can be hard to navigate, but it's like, how do we do this predictably so that we're not hitting a new month with new targets and scrambling? Like, okay, how do we do this? How do we do that? So, yeah, I think you're super correct there. I guess this next question sort of goes hand in hand with scaling and with growing. Obviously, recruitment is a competitive space, a massively competitive space. For yourself and your business, what do you think has been your edge compared to other competitors out there on the market?
When I first started, with my father's company, we were one of the larger IT staffing organizations out there, and we had two parts of the business. There was the traditional staff augmentation business, and we also had what we called a solutions arm, where we could do end-to-end project-based solutions. And so we had that to offer customers. And so so again, we weren't just a staffing organization. We could offer the project-based, solutions. So that was kind of a competitive edge. Um, and now with the company I'm with now, Veteran Sourcing Group, we don't offer the solutions part of the business. We're strictly staffing. So, and we don't have the brand recognition that other organizations might have. So we may not get a lot of folks that, if they see our post and they may see a post for a similar position from a larger organization that has more brand recognition, they may not come to us. So what we have to do is we really have to be aggressive in our outreach to candidates. We have to make contact with them, build some rapport, build some trust with them, and and we seem to do that fairly well. So we have some aggressive recruiters, and so that's kind of how we go after it from a competitive standpoint that way. But also from a just from a compensation standpoint, we're not locked into specific benchmark margins that maybe a larger organization has to achieve. Um, so we might be able to offer a more competitive pay rates. These are some of the other ways that we try to be more competitive in the space. So if we might be able to offer a few dollars more for a position that a larger organization might not be able to, because they're locked into margin requirements. So this is sort of how we try to compete.
Awesome, awesome, super, super cool. I think on you touched upon something really important is like brand recognition. Um, in terms of trying to move brand recognition forward and grow that a little bit, do you have any sort of strategies in place, or is it just sort of leverage LinkedIn, leverage outreach, and really try and get our name out there that way? Or is there anything else that you're maybe
From
doing?
a going after business, trying to acquire new customers, um, we Veteran Sourcing Group is a service disabled veteran owned business. Our CEO, Bob Jones, he was a POW in the Vietnam War, and so we qualify as a service disabled veteran owned business, and we are part of what they call the NVBDC, which you have to become certified. To do that, there's a process to become certified. So we qualify as diversity spend for customers that are looking for, that diversity spend as part of their overall spend bucket. So that's one way that we compete and try to differentiate ourselves in terms of acquiring customers. From a recruiting standpoint, it's really, just trying to build rapport with with candidates, and letting them know that you're a real company. We've been around for a while, over 10 years now. So really, it's just trying to build that rapport with candidates and build relationships with candidates and helping them find opportunities.
Yeah, super important. And yeah, the veteran sourcing it's super, super commendable. Your CEO, that's really amazing stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's an amazing story if folks want to go to the website and just read about Bob Jones, and it's an amazing story. And when he tells the story on customer calls and sometimes he gets asked to be a presenter at different places. It's really an amazing story what he had to go through and so forth. But people can research that on their own, I guess.
for sure, for sure. I'm sure they will after this. But yeah, I guess looking ahead now, David, in terms of a growth perspective, what are the main priorities for the company over the next 12 to even 24 months?
Sure. So, in our business, the staffing business, especially the contingent staffing business, it's hard to become a preferred supplier, a preferred vendor on these big companies, contingent supplier lists. There's a process that you have to go through to become vetted and so forth. So acquiring new customers is difficult and it takes a long time. So
Yeah,
really focusing on your existing customer base and trying to grow market share within your customer base is really the focus, and trying to be the best or one of the best suppliers within the current programs that you're servicing is really the focus.
for sure, for sure. It makes total sense. And yeah, I mean, it's always going to be easier to retain clients and do a good job for clients than it is to go out and find new ones. Um, so yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, especially when it comes to, long processes and stringent guidelines and everything along the lines of that. And I guess just a question off the back of that, and you sort of answered it. What do you think are the complexities when it comes to, acquiring new customers for the business, not on the candidate side? What's the really, really difficult parts that make it hard to acquire those new customers?
Sure. So normally it's a timing issue. Customers generally already have an existing supplier base that they've worked with or have been working with for a long time. So they're not always looking to add new suppliers. Right. So unless, for example, they might be looking to add another diverse supplier, such as ours, right? Um, so that can be an opportunity for us in those situations. And then some customers, I'm sorry, some suppliers may not be performing well within a program, and so clients might be looking to replace those customers. So again, it's a timing thing. You have to keep at it from a business development standpoint. You have to talk to, in our business, I don't know if you're familiar with the term MSP, Master Service Provider, but most of the large Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies use what they call an MSP. So they're kind of a between the supplier and the client, right? So in our case, a lot of times we have to target, the end client, and sometimes it's hard to figure out where those decisions are made, whether it's in procurement, whether there's a sourcing group, whether it's coming through HR. So sometimes we have to figure out, who in what organization within the end client to target to get those conversations going. But then we also have to target the MSPs because a lot of times they're instrumental in the process of selecting suppliers to be part of the organization. So it's really, from a business development standpoint, again, we have to target the end client and then also the MSP. So there's a lot of moving parts. There's different folks that you have to get in touch with and sort of socialize your name and kind of get your name out there. To be even considered within the process of being vetted, and then you have to go through the whole vetting process, which is just just something different. Different compliances, insurances, and different things that you have to carry as an organization to be considered to be becoming a supplier.
100%, and I think that's really testament to why we need that outbound machine to pretty much never be turned off. We need
Yeah.
to business development is a beast that never sleeps. And it's like, how can we do that? How can we get in front of the right people at the right time to give us the best chance of acquiring as many new clients as possible? So yeah, outbound is always going to be king in these types of games, and yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you've said there. I guess now as a leader in the space, David, how has your role evolved? As the business has grown, is there any shifts you've maybe had to make, within the business or personally? How's that role changed?
Sure. So, I started my career as a recruiter, and then I moved up the ranks into account manager, right? More customer facing in business development, and then from there, I ended up having some folks work for me. I was a vice president, and had some folks work for me. And then the company, my father's company, it ended up being sold in, say, the mid 2000s. And after that, I started my own company. And I had that for about 7 years. And I ended up rolling it into the current company that I'm working for now, a veteran sourcing group. But over the years, I've had many roles. So from recruiting to account management to business development, owning my own business. I kind of did a lot of operations, human resources. I was the finance person. Did a lot of different things there, which I still do today in the role that I'm in. So there's a lot of different, aspects to my position today and what I do. I still do recruiting. I manage a team of recruiters. I manage accounts. I do business development. I get involved in some of the operations of the business, and HR issues and things like that. Over the years, I've kind of just been a well-rounded type of person within the staffing industry. There's a lot of things in the staffing business that I probably don't even realize I know and have experience in at this point. But some of the changes though that I've seen, since COVID and post-COVID is. We used to like myself, I used to like to go, visit our customers and meet with them and shake their hand and visit them in their office or have coffee with them or lunch or whatever. Really, try to build those relationships. COVID kind of put an end to a lot of those in-person meetings. And now everything is Zoom calls. And so that's one of the biggest shifts that I see anyway. It's the ability to really build those relationships on a personal level, and just meet people, and it's different when you're sitting in front of somebody and you're just having a conversation as opposed to even doing a podcast such as this, right? It's just a little bit different. So that's one of the biggest shifts I think that I've seen in our business. It used to be that you could go visit a customer, and most of your customers would be in the same location. Now folks work virtual, and my customers are scattered throughout the country, so it's kind of hard to, you know, visit them, and people work from home, so there's not really a meeting place unless you're going to a Starbucks or something to meet them. So that's really one of the biggest shifts that I've seen.
100%. I think as well, like a world where we are so connected now, virtually and remotely, it's almost at the same time like we've never been more disconnected. Because I say there's so much value in going out and shaking hands and building relationships that way. Do you think, this shift has negatively impacted business? Do you think it's positively impacted it? What's your sort of take on all of it?
Well, uh, again, I'm somebody that likes to meet with people in person. So for me, I prefer that. Um, and but so I don't know if that's necessarily a negative, but it's different. I do think, though, living in this virtual, world where we're doing Zoom calls and different things, you can reach a lot of people faster, and so right when you're going to visit somebody, it does take time to schedule those meetings, and things are very dynamic in our industry. So you could schedule a meeting where I could schedule a meeting where I fly to Virginia, and have a couple of meetings scheduled. But I may have already made it to Virginia, and I get and I'm supposed to meet with a customer that morning, and they have to cancel for some reason because something else came up that's more pressing. Um, so in the virtual world, with things being more dynamic and constantly changing within our industry, um, that may be looked as a positive because if you can't make a Zoom call today, we can just schedule it for tomorrow, and so from a time standpoint, I think time management and things the virtual world may has helped a bit, and even on the candidate recruiting side. Customers are more willing to do, virtual interviews as opposed to scheduling an interview where somebody comes in person. And maybe the candidate is already working and cannot take time off from their current job to go interview at another job, but they can certainly take 15, 20 minutes, on a break and do an interview. Um, Things like that. So things like that are probably positive
Yeah.
aspects to the changes, right?
I would agree. Yeah, a massive, massive convenience thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like as you say, you can't make the meeting. It's not a case of, oh man, I've traveled 5 hours and now I'm here. It's a case, hey, push it back an hour and we'll jump
Yeah.
on then. So yeah, I think really, really good points there, David. More so like personally for you now, David, what do you feel has been the most rewarding part of your journey? As a founder, as a leader, what's really stuck out to you?
Uh, I think just helping people find jobs, is probably one of the most rewarding parts about being in the staffing industry. Even though I've been in this business 30 years, I speak to a lot of folks that are looking for jobs that have never heard of, contract staffing work, and they're very focused on, well, I need to find a full-time permanent job, and they may not necessarily realize that by taking a contract position, starting anyway, with a large employer, is just it's a different avenue that somebody could be introduced into, say a large employer, and they don't realize necessarily that that could happen, that they could do that, right? Even though most of our business is the contract staffing world, I mean, anytime during the life of a contract for our folks, our customers can basically offer them full-time employment, right? So none of the contracts that we sign generally prohibit our contractors from taking a full-time position with our customer, and so introducing somebody into a big company where 3 months, 6 months later, maybe a year later, they can roll over perm and end up being employed by one of these large customers. People don't necessarily know that right away, and so helping people find those opportunities, I think, is probably one of the most rewarding parts about the business.
Yeah, I would agree. The way I see it is, without your input, or if they never came across your desk or anything like that, they may not be in the position that they're in today. They may have went with a different recruitment company and, not have got the same return or
And,
value.
and then again, and then again, we kind of touched on it. When you're going for a permanent position, sometimes there's, one, two, three, four, five interviews. It could take, right? It could take a month. It could take 2 months for somebody to land a position. Whereas if they start off as a contractor, they may interview, they may get the job, and they might start 2 weeks later. So it gives them that ability to at least, find a position quicker, and again, they may roll over, to be a permanent employee of our customer at some point in time. So from a timing standpoint, I think it benefits people to at least consider contract, opportunities, in addition to, looking for full-time positions.
For sure. There's absolutely no harm in seeing what's out there, especially if it's a bit of an unknown to someone.
Yeah.
It's just education. Once they find out about it, once they've had an experience from there, it can completely change their perspective. 100. For sure. I think it's the number one sign that you're doing an amazing job. When you start referrals coming in, and I refer to my neighbor refers to their brother. Yeah, that's also super rewarding, I think, in business. 100%. But yeah, David, just sort of wrapping up here. If you could, go back in time, start it all again, what's one piece of advice that you would give yourself? If you could think of something. Yeah. I would agree. It's a case of like, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Patience really is key. I think today we're at the mercy of living in a sort of instant gratification generation where, people just want to hit the gold mine in the next 30 days. That's not often the case. There's a process to things that you need to follow precisely. Yeah, you do everything in order as you're supposed to. Give it time, and you'll eventually get there. But 100%, David. I think, well, first off, just thank you so much for coming on. I think you've been an amazing guest. You've shared some really interesting insights. Super, interesting to hear about what you're doing and what you've got going on at the company. I guess just as we do close off here, is there, or sorry, how can people find you about yourself, your company, any sort of closing remarks? Amazing. Well, thank you again, David. Really appreciate your time, and yeah, we'll stay in contact for sure. Thank you.